Hello and welcome to Insights, the podcast with your host, Joe Pane. Join me in this deep exploration of our personal journeys from ambition to meaning, where we stop living life fast and start living life deep. This is a journey of waking up and realizing that our lives have never been about us, but about others. True success leaves positive ripple effects on other souls. I believe that success needs to be redefined from our own personal ambitious endeavors to be redefined as the value that we leave and give to others around us. Join me now as we begin this journey to deeper connections, even more fulfillment, some fun, curiosity, life, love, and all good things. Your deeper journey from ambition to meaning starts right now. Well, hello everyone and welcome to episode 41. Can you believe it? Episode 41, incredible, of Insights. Appreciate you joining me here. Before I share some insights with you today, I just wanted to give you some context, I guess, of where I'm coming from or the position I'm coming from in my mind of what's been happening here in Melbourne, Victoria in the last 24 hours. I'm not here to report on the news. I'm here to share with you sort of where my psychology has been for the last 24 hours, just to give you context around today's message. Because today's message, I really hope that the words I share with you and these words I'm going to share with you are from the wonderful Caroline Mace, who to me is a modern day mystic, a wonderful woman. And she's written a stack of books, and one of her books, Sacred Contracts, sits in my library here that I've accessed and referred to many times. But I'll swing around to Caroline Mace and her sweet words in a moment. So I'm not sure where you're tuning in from. I know that here in Australia, we have a very unique situation in that the big hotspot of the coronavirus right now, which has taken on a very aggressive second wave, if you want to call it a second wave, is here in Victoria, Melbourne. And you might be tuning in from the United States. You might be tuning in from various parts of Europe, where it's potentially a stack worse than what we're experiencing here, I'm sure. Or you might be blessed enough to be tuning in from some of the beautiful spots in Australia that have very minimal impact. For example, though, the beautiful people in Queensland, my heart goes out to you, like, good on you. I wish I was there because you've got virtually zero cases every day. Our West Australian friends, South Australian friends, and I think even Tassie are relatively, at the moment right now, things are kind of pretty cool. Whereas here in Melbourne, as of last night, our government has upgraded our state of emergency to a state of disaster, which, to be frank, I didn't even know existed. And we've got curfews, we've got all these restrictions. And from what I understand, this is the first time in Australian history that the general population has been put under a curfew. So this, springs a lot of buttons in me and different triggers in me. I'm not here to commentate on my opinion of what's going on because I think that's a waste of time. But part of what I wanted to share with you here is that it's really easy, guys, to get triggered into all the different narratives that you might read on social media or in the newspaper or through a conversation with someone. Please, if you're living in Melbourne, Victoria, and you're triggered by any of what's going on, please be deeply respectful of other people and their narrative. And this is my message here today, is that listening to Caroline Mace only about 2 hours before I sat down to record this podcast. And if I can share these words with you, she says that when our outer world chaos becomes more chaotic than our inner world choices can keep up with, the inner child wakes up. I'll say that again. When our outer world becomes more chaotic than our inner world choices can keep up with, the inner child wakes up, craving the parental archetype. So the inner child that Caroline Mace speaks about she's talking about the inner child archetype. A lot of her work is based in the world of archetypes. That's why I love her work along with the work of Carl Jung, because of the archetypical nature of the work. And I haven't got time to dive into that deeply here in a 20-minute episode. Yeah, if you want to have a look at Sacred Contracts by Caroline Mace, if you're curious, I'm sure you can find it on Amazon or any of those kinds of places. So the point I want to make here is that what Caroline talks about is that when our outer world chaos, when our inner world can't keep up with what's going on the outside, in other words, when we feel restricted by the limit of choice, when our fundamental freedoms are taken away or not there for us to have in the moment, that can do some funny things to our soul, or not to our soul. It can do funny things to our thinking. It can do funny things to our psychology and how we feel. And of course, the more restrictions that we've seen happen here in Victoria, the more extremities I have seen in people's opinions, narratives, stories, what they've been sharing in terms of what they think is going on. And can I just say that, because I'm going to extend upon Caroline Mace's words here, because what do you do? Because it says here that the inner child, she says the inner child archetype wakes up looking for the parental archetype. Now, what is or who is the parental archetype? Well, that's when we're looking to leadership. We're looking to someone on the outside, like a child looking for a parent to tell them what to do next, or to tell them that everything's going to be okay, or to tell them that you're okay, or to give them some safe energy, or a safe environment to be in, to feel loved and nurtured. That's what that inner child archetype is looking for. But who is the parental archetype? Well, it's meant to be, well, it could be, I shouldn't say meant to be. It could be anyone. It could be someone that you know. It could be the government. It could be the leadership of the country. It could be your local leaders in your local community. It could be your boss. It could be your employer that you're looking for some leadership from. It could be a colleague. But these are all external sources. And what I want to share with you here is, if the inner child archetype exists within us and it sparks up the parental archetype, well, guess where the parental archetype lies? Within us as well. So what matters most here truly is not in terms of focusing on what can I do, because there's not a lot we can do, is the question needs to be, who am I growing into becoming? What am I becoming and who am I becoming? Am I liking what I'm becoming? Am I connecting with who I'm becoming? Am I enjoying who I'm becoming? Because a big part of who we are being and who we are evolving into, I believe, and as far as this my insight goes, is that we need to be vessels of unity. We need to be vessels of peace. We need to be instruments of love, kindness, compassion, and patience. And guys, the worst thing that I could do to not contribute to that, the worst thing that I could do, I reckon, is to go out and with unsolicited, unconditional, express my thoughts on what's going on in the world. I think that's an absolute waste of time, because we need to, so my narrative to me of what's going on is real to me, and I believe it, and it gives me some kind of comfort. But my narrative is different to the next person's narrative. To speak in broad terms, in terms of what I'm talking about here, we have some people whose narrative is that the government is doing a wonderful job in keeping us safe. And they believe that, and that is important to them. And I respect that. There are other people who believe that the government is doing other things, fear-mongering, suppression, and so on. Other people believe a new world order is coming through. And I respect that opinion. I respect all of these opinions. There's also other opinions about various conspiracy theories, which are fascinating to read about and listen to. And I'm not going to tell you which narrative I believe in and which narrative I follow, because all it's going to do is polarize someone listening to this. And this is not about me having you like me. It's about me just sharing with you that when we go out and we express our triggers to the world of what we think is going on. I'll give you an example. Last night, I just saw a wonderful person who I personally know on social media express her genuine, heartfelt opinion that our state premier here is doing a wonderful job. And of course, as soon as I read that, I knew that as my eyes were going to land onto the feed, it was going to draw out the polarizing opposite of somebody else saying something completely different, which of course did that, and another comment from another person who I also personally know started sharing how all of that is a bunch of nonsense, and then another person started sharing how the person saying that it's nonsense, that his nonsense, and on it goes. Boy, oh boy, that is just a circle of nothingness. So the greatest gift that we can give this situation is to be respectful of other people's position, to be respectful of other people's positionalities, to be respectful of other people's narratives, because all narratives matter. I'm aware. I'm not trying to build off the saying about all Black Lives Matter. I just realized that as I was saying it, but it's so true with what I'm saying. Is all narratives bloody matter, even if you disagree with them vehemently. They still matter, because your narrative and my narrative is just as important, just as real to you and to me as the opposite narrative is to somebody else. So the worst thing that we can do is to go out there and express ourselves fully and say, this is what's going on, wake up, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not going to say whether I agree with it, whether I don't, because that's not the point of this podcast, is that when we do that, you're going to draw in, you have to, quantum physics says this, is that the opposite needs to come to the fore to do what? To bring order back into chaos. Because the way that chaos works is that it attracts the opposite polarity. And the opposite polarity is needed to draw some kind of balancing act in the spectrums, or the spectrum of positionality. So you've got this spectrum of positionality where you've got people who are far left-wing thinkers and far right-wing thinkers, and all of the gray area in the middle. All of those narratives matter. Whether you're extreme left, extreme right, or somewhere in the middle is beside the point. But wherever you are on that spectrum, we need to remember that the narrative of the other person is just as real as it is to them as it is to us. This is how the world works. This is just how it is. Markets around the world of all kinds work this way. The reason why any market exists, any business exists, any flow of money exists is because of different positionalities on the spectrum of awareness. The reason why a share goes up is because more people think that it's going to, more people are buying it than selling it. The reason why a share goes down is because more people are selling than they are buying it, or something like that, however it goes. So the point is that all opinions need to be valued, respected, I should say. I'm not saying that you need to agree, because I certainly do not agree with other narratives that are different to mine. I completely don't. But I also know that if I was to engage in someone with someone whose narrative is completely different to mine, all I'm doing is polarizing us. The greatest gift that we can give is to be a vessel of unity, to be an instrument of joy, if you can, or an instrument of love, certainly an instrument of compassion, to be a vessel of patience, kindness. Now, I've walked into other people's businesses to buy services or products in the last few weeks, and the way that they have been conducting themselves, in some cases, I kind of don't agree with, but I still need to respect it because it's their business, and I've chosen to enter into their world to buy the product or the service. Does that kind of make sense? I'm not out to go out into the world and make people feel uncomfortable. You know, this morning I was going for a walk around my local river. In case you're not aware, here in Melbourne, wearing of masks or some kind of face covering at the moment is completely mandatory. So I was walking along and I had my, it's like a neck warmer thing that I can pull over my face so I can cover my nose and mouth. And, you know, for a brief moment, as I think I walked about 4 or 5 kilometers, I was getting a little bit warm and I just dropped it below my mouth, only just for like a few moments. just in that moment, a lady jogging by with a mask on says to me, "Where's your mask?" Right? And I could tell the way that she said it. She wasn't accusatory, like I just sounded accusatory then. She didn't sound like that. She sounded scared. And so I put the thing over my mouth and my nose straight away. Why? Because I didn't want to make her feel uncomfortable. I didn't want to make her feel more fearful. I didn't want to make her feel Because I see myself, and this sounds wanky, it sounds however you want to label me, it doesn't really matter. But I so see myself as an instrument of peace, an instrument of unity, an instrument of love. That's my mission. And if it means I have to put a thing over my face, even though I don't necessarily want to make other people feel that peace and feel calm, then that's what I'll do, because I'm not into polarization. The moment we express an extreme opinion, the opposite has to come out of the woodwork. And all you're doing is engaging in the energy of war, of opinions. And guys, that is not useful to anyone. So let me repeat Caroline Mace's sweet words. When our outer world chaos becomes more chaotic than our inner world choices can keep up with, the inner child archetype wakes up craving the parental archetype. And we're looking for that parental archetype out there in the form of government, in the form of our bosses, or in the form of our employer, in the form of our colleagues, in the form of our wives, our husbands, our partners, our best friends, whatever your social or professional situation is. And I'm here to share with you, well, what if we just, tapped in and tuned into the parental archetype that's inside of us? And I believe that the way that we do that is to tap into making a conscious choice on what we want to bring into this world. What's the being in you that what you need to bring into this world? Who do you need to become more of? I know for me, it's more patience, more kindness, more respect, more compassion. And all of that to me is what makes up being a vessel of unity, using Caroline's words. It's beautiful. So that's my message for today. I hope that's making sense. Whatever opinions you might have of what I've shared with you, just please remember, and I say this with the deepest of respect to each and every one of you, that it's a narrative. My narrative is just a narrative. So is yours, so is everyone's. And they are all on this spectrum of different positionalities of the same thing called life. We need to have a healthy respect for everyone's narrative, because other people's opinions who might be the diabolical opposite of yours, you might see it in a certain way, sure. But please remember that their narrative to them is just as real as your narrative is to you, as mine is to me. And we need to have a respect for that. So I guess that's where I want to just leave it for today. That's what I wanted to share with you. And when I heard these words of Caroline Mace this morning, that was the essence of what I wanted to share with you in this podcast this morning, because that's the power of words when they're used to unify rather than to segregate and polarize. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I really, really appreciate you being with me here. And I trust that you got something out of this episode 41. I think I might call this the Power of Narrative Part 2. So anyway, enjoy wherever you are. Even if you're here in Victoria, Melbourne, here somewhere near me, there's always something to be ingratiated by. There is always something to be appreciative of. There is always something that you can savor. There is always something. So all the very best to everyone out there, and looking forward to retuning in with you for episode 42 coming up soon. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye for now. I'm Joe Pane, and you've been listening to Insights, the podcast. If you haven't yet, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. You can now follow my insights on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to being with you again very soon in the next episode of Insights, the podcast.